Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we got some news, something a little bit different here. We're looking at the death spiral of creativity in video games, comics, everything like that. And it's gotten to a point where I just have to talk about it. I try to stay out of this stuff, and I'm going to come at it from a position of creativity and the death of it. I don't want to see it, and we're just going to jump into this article. Microsoft really teetering on the edge of getting me to go, no thanks, son. I'm out. All right, let's jump into this. Let's go. Okay, so as we continue with the death spiral of art, creativity in video games, comics, D&D, you name it. What it is, it's dying. We have this article here from Niche Gamer. Microsoft cautions developers to avoid curvy female characters. Now, why would you do that? Why would you want to avoid beautiful, attractive, strong female characters? Aspirational characters? Why would you want to do that? Like, people look up to Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman, just because they're aspirational. They are heroes. They are something more than we do on a daily basis. They are the echelon, that thing you look up to, that you want to achieve, that you strive for, right? And that's the thing. You're always trying to get to that next level. You're trying to strive as a person to become better. We got this article here, and it says, Microsoft urges developers not to create female characters with exaggerated body proportions on their official site to support game devs. Now, I just, like, all this DEI, this ESG stuff, it's just wild. It's getting at hand. It's killing creativity. It's killing art. It's killing design. I just don't get it. It's just baffling. The site titled Product Inclusion Action Help Customers Feel Seen includes a bullet list of considerations they urge developers to make when working on their product. One Twitter user pointed out the language expressively condemning certain female characters and as reinforcing negative gender stereotypes. Now, why is a beautiful woman who's attractive and fit and in shape, why is that negative? Why is that negative to anybody? It's only negative if you're, morbidly obese, you're overweight, you can't get out of your own way, you can't stop eating food, and so they want to, Dove wants to sell you soap or whatever it is, and so they're going to throw, a 500-pound man or woman and be like, hey, this is okay, and it's not. It's just not okay. You have to take care of yourself. You have to strive to be something better than you are. You can't expect them to make planes bigger because you're 500 pounds. That stuff is ridiculous. The society is just cratering as far as like any kind of ethics, any kind of, goals to be something better than yourself. You used to want to actually be better, actually work harder to achieve things, to reach those goals. Now we just have people who are just like, work around me. I'm lazy, I'm fat, work around my terrible life choices. And that's just not what we want to do. That's not what we want to see. We don't want to see those things as a positive in society. It's bad. It's a net negative for everybody involved. And I'm getting just insanely tired of seeing it. So here's what Microsoft has to say here. Are you reinforcing any negative gender stereotypes? Like, what is that? What are we doing here? Are you unnecessarily introducing gender and gender barriers into your code or design? Stop. Just get out of here. Are you creating female characters that are equal in skill and ability to their male peers? Now, right here, I'm going to stop right here. All right. I'm a tall man. I'm 6'6". Most women I'm dating, 5'5", right? Who's jacking up the car tire? Who's putting on the thing? Who's reaching the thing on the top shelf? Who's opening the jar? It's me. It's not them. If you're a man in a game, a big warrior, a tank, whatever, that's going to be their job. The female archer, mage, fighter, whatever. Like, you can do all that stuff. I'm not saying women can't fight. They can't be skilled at many things. But there's certain realities to gender, right? There's certain realities that men typically, there are probably some exception out there, the 0.0001%. You might find a 7-foot tall woman out there that can flip a car. That might happen. That might be a thing that happens. But 99.999% of the time, women are smaller, lithe. All that stuff compared to the average man. It's just science, just how it is, trust the science. And so, come on, like, there's tanks, there's all these different things in these games for a reason, because there is a certain gender stereotype that men are typically stronger. Their bones are thicker, they have more muscle mass. It's just a reality, So anyway, ridiculous even at the start of it. Are your female characters equipped with clothing and armor that fits their task? All right, we're going to hit this one. Why is it okay for a man to be in a loincloth running around with a sword and fighting, but somehow if a woman is in like some kind of armored bikini, like a Red Sonja or whatever, somehow that's bad, that's sexist, that's, the misogyny, it's off the charts. But, Chris Hemsworth without a shirt on as Thor, raise the roof, everybody. Like, guys look at Chris Hemsworth and go, man, sweet gains, bro. Like, let's go to the I fucking gotta go to the gym tomorrow. Look at that dude, right? Like, they don't get butthurt about it, and they don't sit down in their little, pit of sadness and go, oh, like Chris Hemsworth making me feel bad. They don't do that. It's ridiculous on the face of it. Men look at other men and go, man, that guy's getting his shit done. Let's go. I gotta step up my game. Like, most men in any space, whether it's even art, design, whatever, you see somebody doing something cool, something that you personally perceive as excellence, you strive to reach that and surpass it. You don't just sit around waiting for someone to do it for you. Maybe I'm crazy, but you got to get out there and do that stuff yourself. You have to work hard. You have to do that. And so, yeah, and when you see people in the UFC fighting, they're not wearing armor. They're not wearing whatever. They're wearing shorts. They're just wearing trunks, skin tight trunks, the whole thing. Same with the women. They wear a tight top to, to keep the boobs in, and they wear trunks. Boom, because you're ripping around, grappling. You're not wearing a bunch of clothes fighting. It's ridiculous on the face of it, And so, oh God, we might see, a attractive woman in some kind of, I don't know, torn, tattered gear, armor, whatever, armor with some cleavage. Oh, who wouldn't want to see that? Oh no. And then it's like, do they have exaggerated body proportions? Well, what does that mean? What does exaggerated body proportions mean here, right? If you're in there and suddenly they have exaggerated body proportions, then what is that? Are their muscles too big? And we know that's not what they're talking about. They're talking about them thick girls. They're talking about large breasts. They're talking about things that exist in reality. But here we are. And then it's like, when the story allows, do you show male characters who display a full range of emotions, including joy, sadness, and vulnerability? That's right. We need the sad little Poindexter in the Saints Row reboot, the little black guy with the little bow tie. We need these sad men in our video games. We need no, we don't need sad men in video games. We don't need sad men in comics. We need strong, heroic, proud of who they are men, working to be better, to do good things. Like, the interesting thing I find about all of this is a lot of times you're not even getting full characters. Like, they're talking about all this range of emotions and all this stuff, and half the time you're just getting a character that's wearing a shirt that says trans rights or I'm gay or whatever. And I no one cares about that, right? Like, no one, like, the reality, like, leading up to this, like, all the people I've worked with in my life and over the years, their race, their sexuality, none of that ever, the religion, none of it ever mattered, right? It was, could you do the job? And were you good at the job? It didn't matter that, you were black. It didn't matter that you were Chinese. It didn't matter that you were Middle Eastern, whatever it was, right? No one cared. Could you do the job? And were you a good person about it? Were you good to work with? No one actually cares about race. Like 99.999% of the people on planet Earth don't give two sweet fucks about the color of your skin. And it drives me crazy to see this. And maybe I'm naive. Maybe I'm crazy, wild naive in the world. But people just don't care about this stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and this is 20 years ago. This is 10 years ago. Like, when all this weird woke stuff started coming in, and the DEI stuff, and all the social justice warrior stuff, even at the time, it seemed weird. I'm just like, what are you compensating for? What are you fighting against when there is really nothing to be fighting against? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't go into a place and suddenly be shocked that there are different races in the store or whatever. I don't even really think about it. You just walk in and you see people and you treat them as you would treat anyone else. You just like, hey, are you being cool to me? I'm going to be cool to you. Oh, you said, hey, have a nice day. I said, you too, man. Have a good one. See you later. And that's just that general common courtesy that people just extend to each other. It's natural. People don't walk into stores and see someone and go, oh, I hate that person for zero reason, right? Like there's just, like the vast majority of people just operate on a, hey, common courtesy basis. You're cool to me. I'm cool to you. Oh, we're doing a job together. Okay, cool. Let's do the best job we can, right? We want to create these things. We want to make cool things. We want to make sexy, attractive male and female characters because they're aspirational, not because we're trying to offend anybody, not because we're trying to exclude anybody, right? Like you don't make like an action platformer ninja game and then go, okay, well, we've got to put a guy in a wheelchair in it, right? Like how does he get on the roof? Like how does he do all this stuff, right? Like, and I personally, if I'm in a wheelchair, I don't want to be reminded when I'm in my escapism that I can't do things, right? Like that's the thing. Like I just want to get in there. I want to play some golf. I want to drive a car, be a ninja. Even like, you know, as a guy, as a male, I play a whole bunch of video games like Bayonetta, Wanted Dead, Dead or Alive, like all this stuff, you know, where you're playing as a female character. And I don't go, oh, I'm too much of a man to play as a female in a video game, right? Like you're not that character. You're playing their story. You're enjoying their story. I don't put myself into Bayonetta and go, okay, now I'm Bayonetta, boys. You know, like look at me go. You know, and so yeah, that stuff's really frustrating to see people try to put themselves into things when the important thing is the story good? What are you taking away from that story? Are these characters cool and interesting? Do I want to see more of them? Not do I want to see myself in them, right? Like, and that's the thing for 99.9% of people, like, and I'm using that number a lot, but it's like the majority of people don't want everyday problems in their escapism. They don't want to be bogged down with someone having to, you know, like they don't want to see Nathan Drake, you know, in Uncharted be like, man, my taxes this year, what a bitch. Like, you know, you don't want to see him complaining about, I don't know, his dog dying or whatever. Like, you know, you just don't want to see those daily things brought up. You want to see a guy on an adventure, right? You want to follow him on an adventure and enjoy the story and see the twists and turns of it. You want to see the full creativity of the studio unfold. You don't want to see some guy put in the fact that like his wife hates him and so he's got to write this whole game or comic or whatever where he's a self-insert and oh, it's the worst, or he has mommy issues or she has daddy issues or whatever it is, right? Like people don't want to see that. So, you know, we're going to get back to this here. So, and this is still Niche Gamer here we're going with. Recently, Western game developers have been making a point to rally against objectification in games and are citing unrealistic beauty standards set by fictional characters. And this is the thing that gets me, right? Like, you can go on Instagram, you can Google, whatever, you can go on YouTube, you can watch swimsuit models, all this kind of stuff. There are beautiful, fit, attractive women, men, you know, like you can literally watch guys like workout regimen channels and all this kind of stuff. People who are striving to achieve and get to their fitness goals. All over the internet, you can see these beautiful women. There's no like, you know, you might think to yourself like, oh, you know, like beauty is a pretty rare and finite thing in the real world. You know, if you went to Walmart or you went to some places and you see a lot of morbidly obese people in your daily travels, you could say to yourself, beauty's a rare thing these days. But the reality is there's 8 billion people on the planet, and many of them are beautiful, and there are many beautiful mixes and all that kind of stuff, just due to the fact that most people aren't racist, and people intermingle and races intermingle, you know, so you get some really attractive outcomes because of that. And the feature sets and the jaw lines and all that kind of stuff, right? Beauty is out there. Beauty is pretty normalized. And a lot of people find a wide variety of things attractive, but there is a general beauty standard. There is the golden ratio, for example, and things like that, and how people's facial structure fits into it from an art perspective, right? And so for me, this stuff is ridiculous. Like, I don't understand why you would want to bog down whatever it is you're creating with all these terrible, terrible decisions, right? Like, you know, make it, if you're having an action ninja game, and then, you know, unless you're making like a comedic, like if you're making a Beverly Hills Ninja game with Chris Farley in it, sure. You know, let's put a morbidly obese funny man in it and have him stumble around and have it be ridiculous and goofy and all that kind of stuff. Sure. We can go that route. But when you're going for escapism and you're trying to rule of cool and make things sexy and exciting, and sexy isn't always like equivalent to naked lady, right? Like, or whatever, right? You can make things cool, stylized, like, and Ninja Gaiden and games like that, where you're just like, man, this is the sexiest fucking game I've ever seen, and you're just ripping around as a, you know, Ryu Hayabusa ninja guy, just murdering fools, right? So, like, that's the thing. And, like, design, and, like, you know, you can see a motorbike, like, the motorbike in Akira is sexy and sleek and beautifully designed, right? And a lot of people copy it or homage it and stuff like that, or homage. And so, yeah, like, that's the thing. Like, you have to understand that aesthetics are important. And I really feel like things like this are just like the death of creativity, the death of design, the death of art. And you design these cool characters and you want people to see them, and you don't make it, you want the best, you want to put the best thing out there. You don't want to put the blandest thing out there. Like the Sweet Baby Inc., all that debacle and all this like DEI and all this ESG money and stuff like that coming into these games, it's a net negative. It's just straight up a net negative. You're basically saying, hey, we've got a few guys with a creative vision here. They want to do all this stuff, and then you have all these extra cooks. You know, this too many cooks scenario where they all roll in and start overthinking everything. They start being like, well, this is a microaggression. This is this is insensitive. This is whatever, and none of it's intended. Right? Like, if you create a character who has some kind of Native American lineage and you put a feather in their hat, someone's going to be offended somewhere. It's probably not Native American, but someone's going to be offended that you're making light, or it's a stereotype based on whatever, you know, they have a dream catcher around their neck or whatever it is, like, right? And so, but you see people who aren't Native American with dream catchers in their cars and all this kind of stuff, right? Because they have a interest or a belief in what that is perceived, you know, to be and do, right? And so, yeah, I find the entire thing frustrating. I find, like, if you create by committee and you try to create something for everyone, you're creating something for no one. It has no edge to it, has no bite, has nothing of interest, because it's just bland. It's like, you know, it's like a soup without salt or any spice in it. Like, you know, there's no taste to it. It's just bland. And you just kind of, you know, it's like, I guess I'll eat it, but it's not good. And you don't get that soup again, right? Like, you're like, oh, this is a really weird pea soup. Ew. You want cool things. You want creative endeavors, right? So anyway, we're going to go on here. Most recently, Stellar Blade has been the subject of such criticism despite the heroine being based off a real-life model. And this is the funniest part about this, too. This is the real-life model, right? They do this body scan of her. So all these Kotaku journalists and all these lefty journalists are, like, losing their mind saying that, like, she's not realistic. And then the devs go, oh, by the way, here's the body scan. You know, we'll click on it here. Here's the body scan of the long-legged, attractive, beautiful model from Korea, right? Boom, here she is in the game. Get wrecked, everybody. And so that's the super funny thing, right? And then we got back here. Between Microsoft's developer site and Stellar Blade, it seems there's been a reversal of roles. In recent years, Sony has been criticized for its censorship, and they did all these weird censorships to like a lot of visual novels and stuff like that, where it was just a girl in a bikini, and they would put this like sunlight over it to make it, and it was almost worse in a weird way, where they'd put the sunlight over it, these beams of God rays, so to speak, and it would almost make it worse because it was covering up a girl in bikini, but it was like hitting her breasts with sun rays, and so it was almost like it was making it look like she was nude, and they were trying to hide it. Very bizarre, right? And like, especially coming from Japan, where a lot of this stuff, like in these visual novels and stuff like that, so many developers were like, why is Sony censoring these games? They have a rating on them, right? If you have an M rating on a game, like mature 17, 18, whatever, put whatever in it. It's up to the consumer to decide if they want to consume that content, right? And so, yeah, very bizarre. Like, and Sony's become, I won't even get it. Like, Stellar Blade is a very bizarre surprise, and I think it's because they have no real first-party games this year. And so they seen Stellar Blade and seen some of the hype around it, and we're like, hey, we're going to promote this game. And so, yeah, that's the real interesting thing. So, yeah. In recent years, Sony has been criticized for censorship policies after relocating its business units to California. And so, yeah, that is the thing. Like, it had traditionally been solely run from Japan. And then they moved all the stuff, and, in California's woke, crazy town where everybody poops on the ground. And, but, nothing to see here, folks, And so we'll wrap this up, right? Gamers have been more vigilant in recent weeks following an attempted harassment campaign, and it's not a harassment campaign. The too long didn't read, the TLDR, is that one of the people who worked at Sweet Baby started going after this Cabrutus guy, who basically put up a list of all the games on Steam that Sweet Baby Inc. worked on, which is completely... If you're proud of what you're doing, if you work at Sweet Baby and you're proud of the work you're putting out there, then someone making a list about it should not even bother. It should be like, ooh, water off a duck's back, nothing here, And so that's the thing. So by the Cabrutus guy making this Steam group and making this list, and it's over 300,000 people are following this Steam group. So that tells you that people want to know when their games are being ruined and how they're being ruined, right? And what to avoid. And so if you're consumer friendly and you're SBI, you shouldn't care that people are making lists. If anything, it's letting people know about the good work you're doing as a consultancy firm, right? And so we know that's not true, but So anyway, so Zero Harassment Campaign, and the Sweet Baby Inc. employees have been harassing the Steam creator. It's been the other way around, right? And so the controversy has spilled over from the employees' accusations to wider conversation about the narrative consulting in video games. And that's my thing, too. Like, there's a really funny meme a friend of mine sent me, and I'll probably just stick it in here and post. Batman Arkham Asylum, and had 2 writers on it. And as you went through the Batman trilogy of games like Dark Knight and all, the writers kept bouncing up, like doubling and tripling with each game, right? And then once you got to the Justice League... the Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League game, they had 26 writers on it, and 13 of those writers were Sweet Baby Inc. employees. And that goes back to my way too many cooks spoiling the soup. They put everything in it, and it just became bland. And they took, anything with flavor out. And so, yeah, that is the problem. Too many cooks... Too many people, you make something for everyone, it ends up being for nothing. And if that's the thing I could stress here, like about like art, design, creativity, the whole thing, is it has to have edges on it. Like if you're not, if you're not making people go, oh shit, look at that, it's crazy, or wow, that's beautiful, or whatever, you're doing something wrong. If somebody just looks like, that's okay. Like, yeah, it wasn't terrible. I didn't hate it. Like, you're not making anything of value. You're not importing anything of substance to the world, right? You have to make cool things. And I'm not saying don't tell your stories, or I'm not saying for people of, all different races of the world, not to create things that's of import to you, but you also have to understand that you're making these things for an audience of people who want to see cool things, who want to see whatever. Like, I don't want to hear about you drinking coffee and you're dating and all this nonsense. Like, nobody wants that stuff. People want exciting, fun, sexy, attractive male and female characters in their video games, right? We want to see aspirational characters that people look up to and kids look up to. Like, like when kids were like, I want to be an astronaut or I want to be a fireman. Like that's because they think those things are cool. They think those people are heroic, right? And they're doing something exceptional that most people aren't doing during the day. Anyway, that's just me. That's what I think about this whole crazy thing. And I think it's really like the death of creativity. I think it's really hampering these really talented people. Like, if I was the first two people who were writing and like producing Batman Arkham Asylum, which is an amazing game, and then by the time we got to Suicide Squad and you kept pulling people in, I would be upset. I would be like, why are we bringing all these garbage people in here who are ruining our games? Now they're selling poorly. Now our fans are upset when we were doing fine, the two of us, right? Like, I think a creative vision is very important. And I hate to see the death of it. Anyway, I'm going to leave you with that. Take it easy, everybody. Have a good one. See you later. Bye-bye.